Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, or evening, wherever you are. This is the Lagos Angel Network's Launch and Learn webinar event that we hold every month, talking about different angel and indeed um, startup ecosystem related issues that helps us learn, do better, both as angels, as founders, as contributors to the whole ecosystem. And on the program today, the event, whatever you choose to call it, we will be looking at spotting scalability. And we're proudly sponsored by eDrive, and they are with us on the call today, and they'll be telling us some more about that. Um, Sporting scalability is a major issue around the startup ecosystem. People want to know, is this startup good enough to scale? Should I put my money? Should I back them? What are the signs? What do I look out for? What would not work? These are a lot of the issues that we will be considering today. And I am super excited, very delighted to have with me some really, in Yoruba, we'll say, "Eyo Janko, Janko." We have some really powerful people with me on this call to discuss this topic. And our first speaker, there are two of them actually, but I'll be introducing them as they come into the room. We're all going to be having this conversation together. But our first speaker is Dr. Lola Masha. Um, if she stayed in the academia, she would probably be a senior professor by now. I'm just quickly going to tell you a little about Lola. Lola is a respected executive, investor, and change maker with extensive experience working at the intersection of innovation, growth, and social impact. She currently serves as partner at Antler, and before then, she used to be at Babangona. She has been at Google, she's been at OLX, McKinsey and Co., and she's done a lot with different kinds of organizations, large scale transformation, regional strategy, business development in diverse markets. Uh, she got this PhD in chemical engineering way back 2007, and she is a big deal. And I'm really glad to have Lola with us on the call today. Ladies and gentlemen, please receive with me Dr. Lola Masha. Where's my applause? Yay. Yay. Welcome, Lola. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. So we would actually run into it quickly, whilst we expect Maitri to join us as we go along. Um, when you saw the topic sporting scalability, what came to mind?
That's a very good question. Several things came to mind. First was to even think about what types of businesses can scale and can scale very quickly. So it was a lens of thinking about what industry makes sense for scale, what industry makes sense for VC financing, and how best to spot that very early on. Second is what type of founder can take this business from zero to one. We all know that ideas are plenty, ideas abound, right? We all have a fresh idea every day, but it's really about who can take that idea and actually execute on it, who has the staying power when things get tough, who is able to convince other team members to join them, other co-founders to join them on the journey, who can raise, right? Who can present their idea in a convincing way to investors and have them see not just the impact of the idea itself, but the financial viability of that business. So those were some things that just popped to mind as we were thinking about how best to spot scalable businesses.
Great. So, what is a scalable business? When do you say a business is scalable? Really? Um, what metrics do you use to measure a business?
Yeah.
Let's not even go to the founder yet, but hey, this business is scalable business. What do we mean by that?
Yeah. I think the answer does depend. It depends on many things. It depends on who is answering the question and for what purpose, right? You can scale for impact, right? You can scale for revenues. You can scale for users. We know, for example, that Amazon, for the longest time, scaled for user growth, but
Mm,
wasn't profitable.
very
But there are many
true.
businesses that are scaling for profitability, but maybe quite small, right? And we have others that are scaling for impact. They're doing great things in the world, but may not necessarily be profitable. So the lens with which you define what can scale very much is dependent on what is important to you.
Great.
And that's very much dependent also on who the investor is and
Hmm.
what business
Yeah.
or what sector they're in.
Yeah. Great, thank you. We're right in the thick of it already. But as you spoke on, Maitri joined us, ladies and gentlemen. Our second speaker, who's going to join us in this conversation, is a distinguished leader with a career that spans across Pan African finance, corporate strategy, sustainable enterprise, and venture development. Maitri at the moment is Group CFO at FMB Capital Holdings PLC. It's a leading financial strategy business across multiple South African countries. Maitri is also the founder or co-founder, I'm not sure now, but she'll clarify that, at the Angel Network Botswana. If I spend time to introduce Maitri the way she should be introduced, maybe that would take 30 minutes. But in the meantime, please receive with me Maitri. Maitri, welcome. We're glad to have you here. Okay, so we will just wait up to see if we will get images from her. And in that time, I'll just continue the conversation around the different kinds of directions to look at when thinking scale. So we said that it's really about the investor. So hey, let's not waste each other's time here. This is organized by the Lagos Angel Network. What is scale to the angel?
Well, most angels will then think of scale from a financial lens. They're
Hmm,
thinking that if I put my money, however much that is today, how quickly can this business then grow to return that capital back to me? So that's the lens with which most angels would evaluate scale. So
true.
it's a financial lens perspective for the most part.
True that. So that angels are looking for returns really, and if a business
Absolutely.
um, scales quickly and scales with stability, then you're sure that you could, when big VCs like Antler come, we can go out in the secondaries amongst others. All right. So what do you look out for, really?
As Antler, we are an early stage VC investor. So we are still, so when we come in, the business is still quite young. The business isn't necessarily doing multiples just yet. We see ourselves as inception VCs, meaning we are working with that founder from day one, from day zero, and we are alongside them along the journey. So what we then look for, considering that we wouldn't have the management accounts, the financial statements, all of that all mapped out,
Mhm.
then we focus
Hi,
heavily
Solomon.
on
Can you
quality.
hear me?
Yeah, Lola was speaking, but yes, we can hear you. Thank you for
Because
coming
I'm
through.
afraid I can't hear you. I can see you and Lola, but I cannot hear either of you.
We can hear you fine, but she can't hear us. Maybe she needs to
So you probably go out and
try to.
come back in again. Lola, please let's go on whilst we
Okay.
deal with
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Sorry
So just
about
to
that.
wrap up that, yes, no worries at all. It's to say that we then focus on the strength of the founder
Mm,
and we assess if we have conviction that they can take this business from 0 to 1,000%. And what do we look for to make that assessment?
mhm,
One is, do they have domain expertise? Right? Have you worked in that space for a number of years? If you are, if you are in the financial sector, but you want to build in healthcare, okay, what gives you the belief that you have sufficient knowledge, expertise, relationships, networks, etc., to solve a problem in the healthcare space? So that's always key for us is domain expertise, right? Second is some conviction and some passion for the space that you're in. There are people
mm,
that may be finance, but frankly, they're just doing it for the money, right? And for the
mm,
paycheck.
mm,
Are
mm,
you in this for the long haul? We know how hard it is to build a business. We know that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
mhm.
So, do you truly have the passion for what you're doing? Does the story come through? Right. So, those are just some things that we look at when we assess the strength of the founder and if it makes sense and if we have belief that they can scale a business from 0 to 1,000%.
Great, great. Are you able to, you know, at any point check a commercial end to this? Is it at land where we're post revenue? You don't We don't back you except you've made some money.
Yeah.
So is that something in the financials, for example, that would indicate scalability
No,
or the
absolutely.
commercial?
Absolutely. And we do both. So we do both pre revenue and post revenue. Clearly, it's easier when it's post revenue because then you have some numbers to go off of. But
Mhm,
even revenue, there's still some track records that you can see. There's some early traction that you can begin to get a feel for. Also, what industry are they in? We know for a fact that it is easier to scale in some industries versus others, either for regulatory reasons. Some sectors just are heavily regulated and it's tough to break through very easily. For commercial viability reasons, right? If you are in, I don't want to call industries out necessarily, but it's a lot easier to make money in some spaces than in other spaces, right? What geography are you focused on? Can this model go outside Nigeria? Can it go across West Africa? Can it go across Africa? Can it even go global? Right? How would this thing scale? Knowing the macroeconomic conditions that we have to deal with in Nigeria. So those are some things that you can also check even pre-revenue to determine if this founder in this sector has a decent commercial viability. And even if they're pre-revenue, right, what have they done to validate the business model, right? Is there any comparable in any other market, right? So in any other emerging markets, has anybody else done this? And why do you believe that the problem is absolutely key and is needed here in this particular market? So again, those are some things that we look out for, that we're able to have a sense if this founder can truly scale this business in the industry that they have chosen.
So I don't think that we will clearly have this conversation very well treated if we don't dig into industries, really. So agriculture, for example, um, or in the creative industries, for example, as compared to tech, as compared to you know hardware creation, for example. I don't think that we'll be able to dig this conversation of scalability without truly looking at an industry by industry comparison. So, top
Mhm.
of your head, are there industries that are more likely to scale faster?
The way I would answer that is to use data to say, okay, if you were to look at the unicorn companies that we've
Mm-hmm.
birthed out of Nigeria, what industry are
Okay.
they in? And I think that gives you an immediate, again, very surface, but a surface answer. So those that have broken through, what space have they been in? Right. So that's one way to look at it.
Okay.
Another way to look at it is the size of the industry, of the market. So, yes, while fintech is typically what we've seen breakthrough from a unicorn perspective, you mentioned agriculture. It's a massive part of our GDP. Agriculture still makes up 25% of the Nigerian GDP. So it's
Mhm.
huge. The subsequent question to that, though, is okay, while it's massive, where exactly are you playing to capture that value? And can you
Mhm.
scale that effectively across value chains, across different types, across, production, processing, manufacturing, whatever else, market, off takers, etc. Where are you playing in that chain that allows you then capture value from that, right? Hardware is always hard, right? No pun
True that.
intended. I think that just came
True
through that way. But it's always
that.
tough to and it's even tougher in our market, right? Because for you to be strong in hardware, you're competing with markets that can build that product with more efficient manufacturing processes, maybe different labor cost, maybe some subsidies from their government, right, to help push that industry. Did I lose you, Solomon? But just to wrap up that thought is there are different lens with which we can then evaluate which industries are attractive and which ones may make sense for scale. So let me pause there and hopefully we would get Solomon back into the conversation. Yes, I can hear you now. Yes, yes. Oh, that's a shame. Well, glad you're on. Good to have you on.
In Botswana, we definitely need a startup that can revolutionize data and connectivity because it's
Yeah,
a real nightmare. That's been
yeah,
my
that's
struggle for these last 20 minutes since I was trying to get on. Mm.
very unfortunate. And is that typical or that's just a glitch in the system?
A little bit typical, to be honest, but I think we'll come to that when if I can get in a little bit, is market sizing. Because to be
Mm,
fair, Botswana's market is probably the exact opposite of, typical West African ones, or even where I originate from, India. Very, very small, 2.7 population, 2.7 million population. Sorry, I should say. We probably have more cattle and cars combined. And so it just doesn't make sense to sink a lot of capex funding into large enterprises in Botswana other than the typical mining. And
mm,
so telco services here are quite poor.
Oh, okay.
mm. I see.
That provides clarity and perspective. But hey, great to have you here with us, Mythri. Lola and I have been digging it on the issue of scalability, and considering that this was even you who wanted us to dig this topic out, what is scalability for you, and really, how do you approach it?
Solomon, I'm terribly sorry, but I hardly heard what you said. Maybe I can check with Lola or anyone else. Could
Lola,
you
did you
hear
hear me?
Solomon?
You may have to just repeat the question, Solomon, the last part of it.
Okay, but we need to even be sure that Mythri can hear me at all. Mythri, can you hear me?
For me, you're very garbled. For me, you are coming through very, very garbled.
I can hear you fine, Solomon.
Okay. Mythri, can you ask her if she can hear you, Lola?
Can you hear me, my three?
I can hear you, Lola.
Okay.
This is
She
terrible.
can. She can hear me, so I can translate. Solomon. And someone just made a comment saying there's an opportunity loading. So yes, we do need that startup in Botswana to help sort out the bandwidth situation. But I can translate, Solomon, if you'd want to ask the question again, and I can translate to my three.
So just ask her
Yeah.
about share her thoughts on scalability, really.
Yes, okay. So the question for you, my three, is to share your thoughts around scalability. What factors should be considered? What do you look for when you evaluate companies for scalability?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for that, Lola. And afternoon again, everyone. I'm so sorry for not being able to join in good time and properly. Please do bear with me. And thank you, Solomon, for thinking of having me here on this platform with Lola. So I think in short form, I would say one critical thing for me is, can you break down your solution to what problem it is answering in its simplest form, right? And often I find that when we talk to founders who are unable to scale, they haven't even gotten past that MVP proving, that minimum viable product proof of saying, there's a serious problem. So, for example, Botswana has a lot of business professionals and businesses trying to use this as a base, but they don't have capable internet service. Can we break that down? So, this is the definition of the problem. This is how we're solving it. And I can explain in an elevator pitch of 1 minute how I solve it better than anyone else right now, or how my idea solves it better than anyone else. That to me is the baseline requirement to be able to scale. Because if you haven't defined that super clearly, you can be outcompeted, you can be out-invested, and you can be out advertised and out-marketed and out-distributed by another person who comes along who's better defined and got a sharper definition of the solution that they're coming across with. I'd say the other key thing for scalability, and it probably seems very, I thought about this a lot after Solomon shared some ideas for his questions in this session today. But for me, the second most critical thing that seems to, stumble certain founders when it comes to being able to scale once they've got an MVP and they've got some traction, right, is people. And I say people in the sense of two things. One, the founder or founders themselves, as people and leaders, are unable to evolve past the doing and having their legs in the weeds, which is important for sure, especially from a control point of view and watching the till. But they also struggle to then raise their mindset to the point where they're thinking, okay, I've been able to get to these 20 repeat customers or these 20,000 repeat customers. Which other zone must I be thinking of? Those scale questions. Should I be looking at a different pricing strategy? They stay stuck in the operational weeds. And so as people, they don't evolve. The second element of people that I find trips founders up and otherwise viable startups up is the team you build around you. So I've equally seen so, for example, I'm an investor in Launch Africa, and I also am an advisor when and if Zach calls on me to some of the startups, right? And what I've seen with those startups and the way Zach and Janad and that team run that whole proposition is chalk and cheese with what I've seen with some of the founders who've failed. It's that they haven't built a team that is willing to take this vision and run with it and thereby free these founders, right, up for time. And that is money, that time that the founders are freed up with or that they choose to use. Either which way is either money or it's an opportunity cost. And they're able to then build a team that starts taking on more delegated activities, starts taking on more of the load, and allowing the founders to think of the next strategic growth point that they need to tackle. So I'd say for me, it's one is, do you have a customer, a problem solution fit, truly well and tested, but very simply distilled? And the second is, have you got a handle on people, both yourself as a founder? Do you understand what's going to be expected of you in the evolutionary stages? And are you the type of person or founder or team of founders who can attract a team that can run with the operational and tactical and allow you to become more long-term focused? And long-term in the life of an early stage business, I fully accept, can even be as short as 6 months. But typically, a founder is working day to day, right, in a startup. And so having that team that takes that load off of you so that you can think, what happens in the next 6 months, my cash cycle, do I need to raise funds? That's to me super critical.
Great, great. I'm hoping that she can hear me now. If she cannot hear me, Lola, my translator, my dear
No,
translator,
no worries at all.
would help me. So, talking financial discipline, talking capital stewardship, talking a founder's personal management of their finances. Does that play any role really in whether they can handle scale and scalability?
Do you want me to take that, or you want my three to start, Solomon?
I want
I
to.
think,
I'm
Lola,
not
if you
sure.
could just kindly summarize what Solomon says, because I'm still getting a very sort of mangled pitch. But if you can maybe summarize the question, and you can obviously take it, I'll come in after you. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. So he asked about the role that financial discipline plays in scale. And the answer, for me at least, is it's a very strong role. The founder needs to understand their business from a financial perspective, like the back of their hand. They don't need to know all the nitty gritty metrics and details, but the high level metrics they need to absolutely have a strong hold on and track that, not even weekly, not even daily, in some cases, depending on the business, hour by hour, right?
Mm.
They need to understand basic financial reporting and how to read financial statements. What I often see is that the founder is so knee deep in the building, in the operations, that they forget the finance side of things. And they then run
True.
out of cash. You know, managing cash flow is so important for a business at that stage. And what we do at Antler for our portfolio companies is regular finance office hours with our founders, pushing them to understand financial statements. If they have to go take a course, they should go take that course. But it's so key that the numbers should also drive the business, right? So not just the operations or the tech, but the finance part of it needs to be just as strong. So that's the question, my three. You may want to then build on that as you see fit.
I don't think Maitri is on this call
Oh,
as
did
we
she?
speak. Yeah,
Oh, yes. Okay.
I think she went
So
out, but
forgive me.
I'm hoping that she comes back in
My
yet
network
again.
too. Yeah.
Um, so what I get from that is maybe I don't want to take a risk on you if you don't understand numbers.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And, it's about the team. So you could have a startup that has two co-founders, and one
Mm,
person is very strong on the technical side, the other
mm,
person is strong on the financial side, the operation side, etc. Right? And even if they're not two co-founders, is the founder willing to learn and open to learning? While they may be tentative around numbers, having that growth mindset and willingness to learn also sends a signal, right? Because we know that as you build your business, you would experience challenges, you would experience roadblocks, and you have to have a mindset of, you know what, I can figure this out, right? I may not be the expert in it after whatever 60 days or 90 days, but I know
hmm
enough to have a conversation. So that mindset is also quite key for us. You don't have to be a finance genius at all, but you have to be comfortable and be open to the idea of learning and understanding how finance helps drive your business. Even if at some point you hire a CFO, you don't want a case where the CFO is giving you updates that you can't really put in context, right? You need
Indeed.
to be able to say, okay, the CFO is giving you these metrics or these reports. At a high level, you can interpret those reports for yourself and get a good sense for the health of your business from a finance perspective.
Is there a clear, straightforward go no go question that you would ask normally? Is
To ask
there
our founder,
Yeah, so like a founder you're backing as an angel,
yeah,
like there's this question that you'd ask and immediately you get the response. The response will let you know whether you want to back them or otherwise. Does any come to mind?
that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, typically we wouldn't make a decision based off of one question. We would look at different triggers. But I
Hmm.
think if there is one that comes to mind, it's around just challenging their integrity, right? Their moral compass and how they feel about, you know, dubious business practices. Let me put it that way. So if there's
Hmm.
any signal that comes to us that puts that into question, that's a clear no go for us, right? We
Right.
know that some businesses will fail along the way. That's part of the journey, but it should not be because there was some inappropriate behaviors going on.
Great.
So
Great.
any signal that triggers, yeah, a sense of just lack of integrity or dubiousness or funny business is a very clear no go from our end.
Do we
Mithri,
have? Yeah.
okay, Mithri is back. Did you want to add to that? And I could summarize for Mithri. Solomon was asking if there's any clear go no go questions that you would look out for in a startup.
Yeah. Yeah, I got the gist of that, Lola. Thanks. And hi, Solomon. I think now I can hear you clearly. We've changed our connection provider. My husband helped me set up a different one. So now it's all clear, just when we're about to end. I was nodding my head because I agree with Lola. I think for me, it's still very much, again, a human issue, right? We've typically both seen failures and pulled back from investments on about, I'd say, two to three key areas. So the first is your founder themselves or the founding team are very wishy-washy. You know, they say one thing, they do another. They don't make it in time for meetings. They are not prepared with information in advance of a meeting. And typically, again, we would have asked certain questions through the syndicate group in advance, and then you don't get clear answers. You can't see any corroboration between what they say and what they show you. So these for us become red flags. And again, that's for me a people issue. I'd say the other one is valuations, obviously, and it's not a go no go in the sense of a worry, but it's just something you will clinically walk away from, right? So if, as the syndicate team or the angels who are interested in investing, we've done our DD and we've probably got our valuation range, and the founders are not willing to have a conversation around it, even if we've got points we're laying down, right? And questions we're laying down to say, we see that actually your revenue has been flat or it's shrunk, your repeat users have reduced, issues like that. And yet your valuation is assuming a set of numbers that don't bear that out. Explain that to us. And typically, again, if the founder is not willing to sit around the table and say, okay, how about we work out a deal like X or Y, then we typically walk away. Also, if the founders are not clear on what they want from the angels apart from the financial capital. So I'd say that's probably my third main thing. is if they just are desperate for us to strike a deal with them, but they don't really know what value Mythri adds, right? And they weren't very clear why they were talking to Mythri in the first place. For me, that's a sense of what are we going to be working together on going forward? You don't have a clear ask of me as an angel investor. And so I'm not comfortable putting my money and my time, and I will be putting time into you and your business.
Brilliant summation. Brilliant summation. So what I get from you and all this conversation, especially from the view of the founder, is founders need to prepare. They need to prepare more. They need to come seeking capital more strategically so
Hmm.
that you don't waste each other's time. Talking preparation, is it possible that unexpected events, circumstances could affect the growth of a business? Say, I don't know why the Trump US aid cutoff comes as an example up in my head, but I didn't even see the connection. But events such as those, really global events affecting cash flows, and is there any possibility around this?
Maybe I'll take that first, Lola, before I lose data again. So yeah, I think absolutely, and you're going to keep getting curveballs. I mean, even large scale businesses with massive balance sheets, right, are constantly navigating. Headwinds like that. So absolutely, and I think a reasonable angel investor or set of VC investors will fully understand that these things coming from left wing will happen all the time, or and catch founders off guard, right? For me, I think what is really critical is that two things. The founder needs to be transparent, or the founders need to be transparent with their investors and say, hey, this thing happened. We were actually staking 60% of our future revenues or our next month's revenues on US aid linked projects or SMEs who are going to get funding from the USAID. And now that that's not happening, we have to think twice about those projections. And it's going to put a dent into our cash flows. And therefore, this is our plan, or we need your help. For me, I think that has to happen right up front. The founders need to stop and say, okay, something has hit the fan here. We have an obligation to our investors, and we need to apprise them of that. The second thing is you've always got to have a plan B, C, D. A good set of entrepreneurs will always be thinking, right, I've got this thing firing right now, it's working, but it may not work tomorrow, it may not work later today. My client could go up in smoke, or they could find a better deal. What am I doing to sow the seeds for alternative revenue, right? And to widen my client base and to reduce my risk. They've always got to be thinking of that. And how do I secure repeat revenue? So, through those kinds of thought processes, daily challenging themselves, they're able to come up with tactical plan B's, C's, and D's. And that has to be something that founders really work on. But does it happen? It absolutely does happen. It would be boring, and probably you wouldn't see any growth in a market where, and you wouldn't see competitive businesses in markets where there aren't such challenges.
Great.
Yeah,
Lola.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, just to add one more point to that, which is the ability for the founder to then make some tough decisions in light of those changes. And it could be policy changes, it could be global events that occur, it could be a range of things. But the founder then needs to think about, okay, here are my plan A, B, C, D, as my three has said. What does that then mean? And when do we trigger this? It doesn't have to be layoffs or anything like that, but there has to be an intentional thought process around what does this mean for the business, right? If we pivot and take option A, What does that mean for revenues? What does that mean for our cost? What does that mean for ABC, XYZ? If we take options, so really that intentional thinking through the options and mapping that out and understanding the implications of that for business performance is also quite key. And then taking a position and taking a stand and following through with that is also quite key. You sometimes find founders that just get stuck, right? And can pull the trigger and really don't like it before, but can take action when needed to pivot the business in a different direction for that point in time.
I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. And Mitri says it will be boring if something doesn't come up. And okay, so we expect something to come up. Um, there's a question here from Amarachi Wanchuku, and she's asking about the creators' economy and what's our thought on that. And really, when I first saw the question when it came up, I'm reminded of two startups recently, at least this year, that I thought were really brilliant businesses, but I had concerns about them scaling. So first, what do we think about the creative and creators economy? Number one, and then number two, are there systems and structures that could be used, leveraged upon to help businesses in that space scale?
Mythri, do you want to
Um,
go ahead?
let me give it a shot, although the creative economy and the creators economy isn't something I've worked terribly deeply in, only peripherally through Launch Africa and a little bit through Startup Bootcamp. I think I'd say that what worries me the most about creatives in general and a sort of co creation concept is what Gen AI is doing in our space today, right? So I'm reading about this and hearing about it on the news and FT and places like that daily, where generative AI is going and scraping data and content and what should be copyrighted material from the ether, and it's putting it together and it's basically appropriating it, right? And it's also creating certain matter and content again that it can sell. I mean, the latest is there are lots of songs that are on Spotify themselves by AI. AI and agentic software has basically created these songs, and they've got hundreds and thousands or millions of likes and followers. And later it's discovered that, hold on, no human was directly involved in the making of this other than building the AI software that created this music. And so I feel that's a major disruptor and disintermediator in a sense. But having said that, there is a lot to be said about how it can only go so far. AI can only go so far, and the human touch is what's critical. And I think what the creative economy and the creators economy needs more than anything is a lot of ring fencing and protection. So even if you aggregate a whole lot of creators together under on a platform or under a hub, what they need is probably some legislative protection so that when they've created some content, it can be protected, copyrighted, and they're able to earn revenues off the use of that. The other thing is there needs to be a very good back end data engine that monitors, followers and usage and likes and so on, so that investment can follow where I guess the market is going. But those would be some of my thoughts on that. I'm not sure if there's more to the question that they'd like to add. But over to you, Lola.
Lola?
Yeah, just to add one more point to that. And again, this is very unique times for sure. These are pivotal moments in our history as people. And I'm sure the next 10 years will look very different from what it is today. No one can predict the future, but I think what will become even more important is that human touch. right? When everything becomes AI generated, movies, music, video games becomes 100% AI, where I see people gravitating towards is then paying a premium for that human connection. So whether that comes through in, I don't know, a resurgence of plays, possibly where people actually want to go see people in theater versus simply watching an AI generated movie on Netflix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether that
Mm.
comes through in live band events where I actually want to
Mm.
see the band
Mm.
play and entertain, whether that comes through in all manners of things, even in sports and so on. But I do think that the human touch will become even more valuable
Yeah.
and would attract a premium as AI becomes more endemic in our just everyday media, news, entertainment, etc.
Great. When you used the word endemic, what came in my brain was pandemic. Like AI is fast becoming a pandemic on its own. But hey, this has been a really robust and rewarding conversation. I am grateful that Maitri finally made it through and added some thoughts to it. Um, well, slightly running out of time, and I made a promise to our sponsors that they would get some time to talk with the people. So we will let the people from eDrive, who has graciously helped us with promoting this, and beyond promoting, putting the software together, we can stream both on um, LinkedIn and YouTube and the other platforms where we are. We'll take a word from them, and then we'll come back to Lola and Mitri as you tell us your last words around scaling and what angels particularly should be doing as your final words. So, Deborah from eDrive, the whole world is listening to you now. Joseph, can we bring Deborah?
Oh, hi everybody. Hi Solomon. Hi Lola. Hi Maitri. Welcome. Of course, thanks once again for the platform. We sincerely appreciate all of us at eDrive. I would walk us through how we're electrifying mobility. You know, I work with the finance team at Full Tide Technologies, the team behind eDrive, Africa's purpose-built electric mobility platform, and we're using technology, clean energy, and financial innovation to transform urban mobility across Africa. So at Full Tide, we're not just deploying electric vehicles, we're building Africa's next generation mobility infrastructure, and we're doing that because on third-party services like Google APIs for mapping and navigation. We also have a situation of large or scarcely distributed charging infrastructure. We have the challenge of lack of EV maintenance expertise locally, and finally, misconceptions around EV reliability. But we've proactively addressed this with strategic interventions. Our in-house technology team have optimized our API usage of Google and began developing our own mapping system that gives us a bit of control and cost efficiency. We've also invested in proprietary charging infrastructure and deployed mobile chargers to reduce downtime. Our in-house own operations and maintenance team as well has established a rigorous training program, ensuring that we're quick to respond to vehicle downtime. We've also launched aggressive EV campaigns across the market to ensure that customers are aware, people are aware, everyone in the environment is aware of the benefits of the use of electric vehicles, especially in the transport space where we are. And finally, because we're gender inclusive and we hold it dear to our hearts, we've set a bold target to ensure that there's 50% female representation by 2026. And we backed that by practical policies like the menstrual leave to support wellness. I'll take us through our performance snapshot. Within our first 90 days post launch, we recorded over 14,000 rides, 8,000 plus app downloads, 75% being iOS users, and 25% being Android users. We've spent over 3.8 billion naira in capex, mostly for vehicles, the electric vehicles, and infrastructure, including the technology aspect. We've also, based on capital raise, 3.9 billion naira, which of course reflects investors' confidence. Our vehicle utilization stands at 95%, stands at 95% across all our fleets. It's also a strong indicator that we're ready for the market, ready to fulfill the needs of the market. And by Q3, we hope to scale to 130 ratio to 5, that's EVs to charging station, reinforcing our readiness to expand into new cities. I'll talk about the team
I'm a
behind.
bit concerned that you are running out of time, or you have actually run out of that 10 minutes we spoke about.
Oh wow! So let me just go to our impact. So far, we've created over 300 plus jobs, and we've saved or eliminated over 15 million kilograms of CO2. Advancing environmental goals. But in summary, Volta is deeply rooted in urban mobility problems in Africa, and we hope that you join us as investors, partners, stakeholders in driving this shift. You can take out time to visit our facility at Elite Gabi and reach out to us if you'd like to be a part of this shift we're making. Thank you so much, Solomon.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the team at eDrive. Um, they have graciously sponsored this event and made sure that we reach as many people as we advertised the program to. So, to take your closing words, especially to the angels listening in on this call, and of course to the founders, what will be your last words concerning supporting scalability, and what direction should we be going generally as an ecosystem? Maitri.
Thanks, Solomon. So, I think in terms of supporting scalability, there's no substitute for really rich conversations with founders and then corroborating what the founders are saying they see in the market and the trends and the uptake and the risks and opportunities ahead, corroborating that more broadly. So, really having a rich 360-degree comms loop, communication loop with your founders and others who are specialists in that area so that you can support them to scale. There's nothing worse than somebody who's put their money in you who doesn't understand where you're coming from, where you operate today, and where you ought to be going to tomorrow, right? And the only way to cut through that, in my opinion, is get as much wisdom and knowledge and know how together and pour that into structured conversations with the founders, right? That is what possibly makes a difference between a founder who succeeds and one who doesn't have that kind of support. I think your other question was what should angels be doing more of as we go forward? And it's definitely collaboration. So I've done several investments, not just me. We've done investments with syndicates from Angel Network Botswana, which, as I said, 2.7 million people. So we're a tiny country. But we've done cross border investments with the likes of Josie Angels, and we've done them into sort of legal tech businesses, into women run businesses. And we've invited them to do co investments with us where we've led on prop tech and the like. And then we've invested across the continent with multiple others. Somebody else who comes to mind, a strong woman like Lola as well, and Deborah, who spoke now, Umulinga Karangwa. She's of Rwandese origin, but works across the continent. We've co invested with her into a biotech company in Ghana, that is doing alternative protein processing and doing it really, really well and getting a lot of support. And I think that the more that angels try to go across borders and cross pollinate their knowledge as well as their capital with other angels, one, it diversifies your risk as an angel, but it also then brings more platforms to those founders and becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of success because it sort of accelerates their ability to scale out and beyond their borders. I'll stop there. Thanks, Solomon. I could go on.
Thank, thank you. Thank you. Apparently, we can see that. Lola,
Yes, just a couple of points from my end. One, to the angels, please don't get tired. Don't be tired. We know that it's sometimes tough investing in startups, and knowing that it's a long journey with them. But let's keep supporting the ecosystem to thrive and to grow. And then secondly, it's realizing that our founders oftentimes need more than the cash. The cash is absolutely important for sure. Don't want to take that away. But we also need the network. We need the introductions. We need the encouragement. We need the support. Sometimes it's really just a check-in, right? That founder needs to keep going. It's a lonely journey, and knowing that, hey, I have a team of cheerleaders around me that has the right mindset, that has a collaborative mindset, and one in which they're looking to me to succeed versus asking, where is the exit, right? When are you making X million, right? When can I cash out? But having that mindset of supporting and cooperating with our founders to succeed is absolutely critical. So let's keep doing what we can to grow the ecosystem. Obviously, again, cash is important, but beyond that, let's provide startups founders with what we believe that they need and also what they ask from us, right, for success.
thank you so much, Lola and Mitri. This is our time, pretty much. But hey, we're grateful to everyone who's joined us on this conversation. This has been Lagos Angel Network Lunch and Learn session for the month of July, and we've been talking about the capacity really to support scalability. And we've had amazing input, insights, and perspectives from Lola and Mitri, and they've just, without any stress, you know, answered these questions, provided clarity, and they've helped us see really the things that we should be looking out for on every side, whether you're an angel investor or pretty much a founder. I thank you all. You can reach us on our website, www.lagosangelnetwork.net. Um, Investors at Lagos Angel Network, if you want to send us a deck, founders at lagosangelnetwork.net, and we'll be here to go through, listen, and see what we can do together. Lagos Angel Network is an exclusive community of angel investors, both individual and corporate angel investors supporting the African ecosystem. Mythri joins us from Angel Network Botswana, and Lola is of Antler. And everyone on this call really is committed to ensuring that the African entrepreneurial ecosystem is optimized. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your questions and your inputs. I hear that there were some challenges on the LinkedIn viewership, but we'll have the recording certainly on the on YouTube. And so on the channel, Lagos Angel Network channel, on YouTube will find the rest of this recording. Lola, I am grateful for the opportunity to sit with you in this conversation. And it's the same thing with Mitri. Thank you both so much for coming through. Everyone at LAN says thank you. We will send your lunch packages by Korea, hoping that the business will deliver its sales that fast. Thank you
Well,
so much.
Solomon, I hope to be there as an ABAN board member in October. No,
Hey,
is that when we're having our Congress? And you can
yes,
give
it's
me some jollof rice, okay?
no problem. No problem. We will have you covered in that. Lola and I will be here waiting to
Oh,
receive
yeah.
you.
I'd love to meet you
Absolutely.
both. Yeah.
Yes. Looking
Thank
forward.
you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
So we
Thank you to Solomon for